Hey everybody, it's Laura Livesey from Livesey Solar, and I'm joined with Rod Solar. How are you
Hello,
doing?
everyone.
Good to see you. We wanted to give you an overview of what's coming up on this coming Monday at ESCRS. We're excited. We just gave a 1-day overview of the Sunday event, which is the masterclass. So please watch that video if you haven't. And today we wanted to give you a bit of a up-to-date this is news passing overview of each of the options, because it's always a little bit curious, and I think that you're obviously making a decision as to how to spend your time, and we're going to unpack each of the events so that you have a good sense for which ones are a good fit for your practice, which ones can help you grow, which ones can help you optimize your practice. Look at the team side. I think there's a lot of issues within practices that we aim to share with you on these practice development days. And I think it's important to kind of know what the different categories are and how they can help you. So maybe we can jump in there, Rod, and take a look at what's on the agenda.
Okay, so yeah, as you can see here, we've got the agenda, and I pulled this off Facebook. There was a specific PDF that was or image that was raised there. So I'm going to have to, first of all, make key points, right? Monday, the 19th, September, 8:30 to 6 p.m. Milan time. And the location is Brown 1. So that's the location of the event. And we're going to have all of these talks provided on that day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this, just show you what it looks like. And
yeah, that's better.
What I'd like to do is just start going through each one of these bits. So obviously I'll get started with the first one. So Paul Rosen is going to be introducing the ESCRS. I really want to know, maybe we'll put a poll somewhere. Is it ESCRS or ESCRS, right? That's the big question I want resolved, because it's a debate. It's a raging.
I just make it an acronym and go with it.
So ESCRS, Practice Management and Development, an overview. So Paul Rosen will be introducing the Q&A on possible new topics for future programs. It sounds to me a little bit like he's doing a little bit of crowdsourcing on what we should all talk about in the future. And I think that's a really good idea. I mean,
opportunity, yeah, for you to share your thoughts and ideas about your practice and what you want to know.
That would be great. Yeah. I personally, my perspective on the overall event is I think there should be themes. I think it should be thematic. I know that not everybody will be interested in one theme, for the entire day, but what I kind of like the idea of is, we're going to have 2-hour themes, and we're going to have kind of a focal point on, every 2 hours on talks that relate to those themes. That's my personal way that I would do it, but it looks like, they're looking to get some ideas from the audience about what is of interest. And yeah, that's always good. So yeah, moving on. Anything else to discuss about that? Or are you happy to move on to the next stage?
No, let's go through it. Yeah, I think we want to give a pretty brief summary. So yeah.
Okay, so the art of negotiation is going to be delivered by Daniel Kook and Chris Morrell. And that's an exploration of how ophthalmologists in public and private practice can effectively use negotiation tactics in a variety of ways. Now, what's interesting about this one is that it's interesting because Daniel Kook had, and I actually moderated it, so I remember it very clearly a few years ago. I think it might have been in Vienna, I don't know. But Daniel and who else? Yeah, Shiraz Daya were on the stage doing kind of a mock negotiation. And the negotiation in that instance was Shiraz Daya played the part of the clinic owner, potentially hiring Daniel Kook, who played the part of the ophthalmologist who wanted a job. And so they had a kind of a faux negotiation role play where they talked a little bit about the different stages of what they were doing, the do's and don'ts of negotiation. That's what I remember.
Yeah, nice. And then the next one at 9:45 a.m. is all about building and developing a private practice. Of course, this is a topic that's near and dear to our hearts, but I think this is interesting because it's from the perspective of an ophthalmologist. So I think that we're going to jump in and talk more about practice building from a healthcare marketer's perspective, but I think it's really helpful to hear firsthand, especially for you as an ophthalmologist when you're growing your practice, to gain the belief that you can do it. And I think that that's where I find these really, really helpful beyond everything you'd expect around ideas and tips and common experiences on how things have worked. But I think it's really helpful for you to hear it from the horse's mouth of other people who've done it. And so they're going to be giving us, this is Arthur Cummings, Shiraz Daya, and I believe, is it Paul Stodoka?
Pavel,
sorry. Pavel Stodoka. So we're getting that 3 different unique firsthand experiences on their different approaches to building in private practices and what they've learned. And I think, having spoke to them before, I think there's a lot of pitfalls as well that I think is really useful to be aware of when you're growing in practice. So I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that might dovetail into a recent CRST Europe article that Arthur Cummings wrote. Yeah. He just recently wrote an article about private equity and his perspective on where private equity may go when it comes to purchasing practices. As you write, as audiences will recall, that there's been a flurry of private equity activity over the last 5 years. It's been quite substantial. It's been very much on the minds of ophthalmologists who are potentially at their senior stages wanting to sell off their practices. And now we're starting to potentially see a downscaling of that. So I hope that he brings that into it. I think the whole private equity conversation is very, very interesting. I have mixed feelings about it, but I hope that I can potentially share some of those feelings then. Managing and developing a public ophthalmology department, and that's delivered by Paul Rosen and Esni Dubgeil. I don't know Esni Dubgeil personally, but he's from Belgium, and I hope to meet him on that day. In terms of what they're going to be talking about, I think it's probably what it says on the tin, is managing and developing a public ophthalmology department.
Yeah. I think where we've interfaced with in the UK, the NHS quite a few times, and I think that's a really critical topic in terms of bringing a business awareness to these services. And I think that the points here around leadership, project management, and business acumen, while that may sound obvious, in the past, what we found is that's not always the case in departments, and they do suffer for it, especially if they're looking to, as many are, do private spin-off units. And a lot are looking to augment the public side of the business by bringing in revenue on the private side. So I don't know if that's going to be what they're going to focus on, but I think that when you start to look for qualities like this, there tends to be more of a result in mind that you're looking for. So I'm guessing that that's where they're going with that.
I would say too that it's important, and sometimes I often forget it, but it's important to acknowledge that practice isn't always private practice. And at the end of the day, this is practice development or practice management and development, as I like to say. So it's kind of welcoming, I guess, for many people who don't have anything to do with private practice to learn a little bit about how to develop their public practices. Fair enough.
Yeah. And then we go into who owns ophthalmology. So again, this is Shiraz Daya, again, Pavel, and Chris Morrell. So again, just exactly what I think, Rod, you've gone over this already, but with private equity coming in and taking an interest in different practices, what do you do with that? How do you identify the opportunities? Because they're not always opportunities. So I think this will be a good one to attend if you have a goal of exiting, which I hope you do one day if you do have a private practice.
Yeah. And like I said, I think I'm glad that they're going to be talking about it from, the perspective of whether it's a good trend or a bad idea, because there really are pros and cons. There really are. And I think that the more people know about this, the better. I think that often people just look at private equity as potentially the big savior, but in reality, it isn't all what it's cracked out to be. So, so looking forward to that. And the next one is the industry session. So the industry session is an interesting new type of session that we're planning, which involves inviting industry to participate in some of the big hot topics of today. And that involves the number one, I'm actually going to be presenting at this one, talking about automation and talking about specifically automation and AI around the development of leads and also the onboarding of patients as they, to get them into the practice. And we're also going to have, my goodness, is it Clearwave? I hope it's Clearwave. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name. Shoot. Anyway, there's a Laura Russo, I think it's Clearwave. Oh, I hope I didn't get that wrong, but forgive me if I did. We'll edit it in the notes if it's wrong. But Laura Russo of Clearwave will be introducing context around onboarding patients, and with automation, bringing their information into the clinic. And then Marisley Almeida is going to be talking about from Zeiss is going to be talking about how to use AI and automation in the clinical practice when it comes to diagnostics and also treatments through Zeiss portfolio products. And then we're also going to have, at the end of that, some invited guests to sit on a panel from industry talking about how they see the future trends around AI and automation, especially in terms of how it will affect practice in the future. So super interesting.
Awesome. And you nailed it. It is Clearwave. Yeah.
Clearwave, thank goodness.
Your memory is intact. That's excellent.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah.
And then we're going to make it practical. So we're going to take the discussion. So we're starting with a broad-based discussion around automation and AI and what can you do to grow your practice. And then in the next session, we're going to apply it to an individual surgeon's practice. So in this session, we're going to carry on, and this is with Guy Salé. So Guy Salé is going to join Rod and myself to talk about the patient journey. And first, Guy will go over his practice and what he's doing. He's got a well-performing practice, nothing wrong with it. But this is where you can start to see, and I think this makes it very real, how does automation impact a performing practice? Not just one that needs to kind of, get started and get some momentum, but one that's already doing well, and how it can really stimulate things to help you grow. So we'll be looking at the whole patient journey, everything from awareness, from when people first start to know about you, to engagement, when you start to start a conversation with them, through the entire funnel from when they come in for a consultation to when they get excited and buy their surgery, and then out the other side when they start to tell people about you and get reviews. And we're going to look at actually the world's first automated medical secretary, and how she's got a name. Her name is Hattie. We're going to share with you how Hattie can actually help your team and become a part of your team to automate every one of those stages. So we're going to apply that though to Guy's practice, so that it's really, really practical, and you can see how you can be out in front of this trend of automating practices. So it's really excited to be talking about that.
Yeah, it will be. And one of the coolest aspects of the presentation, I believe, is you nailed it, Laura. Guy's practice is very solid. It could be a model for practices. And so when I looked at it, I had to think, how can I actually improve this thing? What can I do to make it better? And, it would be more of a challenge. And so I decided to kind of frame the talk as a challenge. And the challenge being, how can I optimize Guy's practice for £1,000 or less a month? So without spending any money on marketing, without spending any money on new staff, and without hiring any more people, all that. So how would I go about, improving a practice for £1,000 or less a month, doing nothing but internal work? So I hope that you find that interesting. I think many of you will be in a position where you can look up to Guy's practice, and those of you who have practices that are like Guy's that you'd like to optimize, I think you absolutely have to be at that particular talk. And next, we have at 3 o'clock, why young ophthalmologists need to learn business and management skills. I kind of wish I was part of this one, to be honest, because I love to talk to young ophthalmologists about how to get started in private practice. It's something I don't do very often, but I would love to do it on a one-to-many basis like this. But we're going to hear from Daniel Cook and Roos and A. Matsu. I think that's Artemis Matsu. This session is aimed at young ophthalmologists who are either in private or public practice, or both. So that sounds really, really interesting.
Cool. And then we can't see the next ones.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do the eye test here.
We're gonna need to get some.
Okay. Yeah. So 4 o'clock to 5, we're gonna have a talk about sustainability in ophthalmology. What does it mean for you? Yes.
Okay, so if you can't read it, so I can, why ophthalmologists can do their part in fighting climate change. Okay, and developing more sustainable practices. It's interesting.
I can read it. I can read
ranges. You definitely can read it.
Hey, I've had laser blended vision. I can read it, right? At least that's what I have to say. All right. All right. And finally, we're going to have at 5 o'clock to 5:45, Ask the Experts with Pavel Studilka and Paul Rosen, Shiraz Daya, Guy Saleh, Rod Siller, hello, Chris Morrell, Laura Livesey, and it's going to be an open forum to close out the 2002 NE2 practice management program where delegates can ask questions of the panel of experts. I love that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do is answer questions. On that note, Laura and I are going to be there the entire day, and we are going to be playing the part of, you know, when Oprah steps out into the audience and like with her microphone and asks different questions and kind of sometimes paraphrases questions and asks follow-up questions. That's what we're going to also be doing during the event. Okay. So we are looking forward to that. And I'm also really looking forward to meeting a lot of people that we haven't seen for years.
Yeah.
And having opportunities to chit chat about practice development and other things.
Yeah. Yeah. So bring your questions. I think that's just in case you think that you won't get a chance, you will. You absolutely will get a chance to get your question heard. And I think we often go through, 30, 40, if not more questions, if they're there and if we have time. So get them in, even if you weren't there for all the sessions, make sure you come by if you do have a question about any of these subject matters that we just went over. But particularly, you can grab Rod or I anytime through the day if you want to know what's the latest on how to grow your practice.
Cool. Oh, thanks very much, everybody. And if you like this video and would like to know more about what's happening at the masterclass, you can also look at our previous video that will be very near where this is appearing about everything that's going to happen at the masterclass, which happens on the 18th of September. That would be the Sunday, which we will always also be there at to answer questions and also assist in the panel. Thanks very much. And we can't wait to see you in Milan.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple of days. Bye.